What is the tank inventory of the Lao People's Armed Forces? Here is a detailed overview. In December 2018, Laos received a batch of 24 T-72B1Ms White Eagle, and in 2019 to 2020, Laos received a second batch of approximately 25 more tanks of the same type. The tanks were received as part of military technical cooperation between Laos and Russia. The T-72B1MS version is an export-oriented upgrade of the T-72B1, with an upgraded engine and electronics. Today, Laos have around 50 tanks of this type. In 1975, Laos received 15 T-54 and 15 T-55 tanks from the Soviet Union. And, in 1984, Laos received a second batch of tanks of this type from the Soviet Union, to a total of 85 tanks received. These tanks were delivered as part of military aid. Some sources also state that Hungary was a source of these tanks, but there is no evidence of that. Today, approximately 15 of these 85 tanks are still in service, while the rest are either in reserve, or storage, or being used as spare parts. In 1961, the Soviet Union delivered 45 PT-76 light amphibious tanks to Laos, more specifically to a faction in Laos called the Neutralist faction under Prince Savanapoma. That faction was at that time allied with Communist Pathet Lao, so that is why the Soviet Union sent that support, but that support ended in 1962 after the defeat of that specific faction. Then, in 1969, Laos captured 25 additional PT-76 from North Vietnam, and Pathet Lao received around 30 also. In total, around 100 PT-76 light tanks were sent to Laos or captured. Many of them were probably destroyed during the Civil War, and most sources today claim that only 25 remain in service, while some more could be in storage. The ones the Neutralist faction received in 1961 was of the early PT-76 1951 model, while the ones that was captured from North Vietnam in 1969 or sent as aid to Pathet Lao was of the slightly more modern PT-76B model. The tank crews in Laos today receive their training from three main sources: domestic training, training in Vietnam, and training in Russia. Domestic training is received at the Ministry of Defense compound in Vientiane. Training in Vietnam is received at the Vietnam Military Academy in Hanoi. And training in Russia is received at the Sergeyevsky Training Range in Primorye region, and at the 61st Armored Repair Plant in Strelna, and also in Moscow Higher Military Command School. Some sources claim that Laos still have some T-34-85 tanks in service. Those tanks came from a batch of 300 tanks sent to North Vietnam from 1955 to 1960 from the Soviet Union. Even some sources claim these were tanks produced under license in Czechoslovakia. But in 1987, Vietnam sent some of these tanks as military aid to Laos. In 2019, the remainder of the tanks Vietnam sent to Laos were sent to Russia for use in parades and movies, and the same time Laos started receiving T-72 tanks. Conclusion: today the Lao People's Armed Forces have the following tanks in service: 50 modern T-72B1MS White Eagle, 15 T-54 and T-55 and 25 PT-76 light amphibious tanks. The country does not have any T-34-85 in service anymore. In total, Laos have around 90 tanks in service.